All right, so let's just get started right away so we don't keep you guys too long. Welcome to our summer anatomy class. I'm really happy to have you all on board. And again, sorry, it's Juneteenth and we're meeting anyway. We're keeping it short. I just want the class to get started. It's not an obligatory thing. I'm recording it for later viewing. But I want to make sure that you all are able to get into Canvas, the ones who are online. Is that we're good with that? All right, perfect. You've gotten into my class or into our class. It's not my class, it's our class. And then so that's cool. So the other thing that I often do is, what I think is fantastic to do is get the app, the Canvas app. Do you guys have a Canvas app on it? So that's kind of cool because you can upload stuff through the app easy. You can do it on the go, obviously. You can have a computer do the videos. You do the stuff on the app parallel potentially. And so I like the app. Also, when you do videos, in case you work with videos, in case you work with video, it's very easy to do it on the app. It's a very fast-paced class, so we don't have too many discussion forums and interactions that way because that takes a lot of time. So I'm kind of going right into the meat and potatoes in this summer class. But yeah, if you can get the app, that's great. So if you see the course, that's great. So why don't we go right into it? Oh, and my rules of engagement on Zoom is if you have a question, you cut me off. Like that thing you're not allowed to do in school, you totally need to do here because I'm not gonna able to monitor my my chat while I'm talking, and I want to make sure. And then I can't see you guys all the time because I'm focusing on the screen that I'm lecturing. So if you have anything, question, comment, anything, you just get over it and say, "Hey, stop! I need to have a question." All right, so that's sort of a little bit different than in the classroom, and it's been working really well for the last few years. So don't feel like you're gonna interrupt me and that's rude or anything. In this class, that's totally cool. So when we go and when I share my screen with you guys, let's see, how can I share my screen with you? Do you guys see the class, the homepage?
Yep.
Oh, good. Oh, and that's another thing. Sometimes with Zoom, I talk and I can't necessarily see what you see on the screen. And if I'm messing up, you just have to halt me and say, "Hey, that's not the right screen." That happened a couple times. I've tried to get better at it, but it's this online stuff. It's pretty funny. So if you enter you go to the dashboard, you go into our class here, the summer anatomy class. The first thing you get to is the homepage. We have this video. I saw most of you guys watch the video. Probably all of you on here have watched it. The ones who don't show are the ones who didn't watch it, which pretty much explains a lot of the stuff already. Then down here, you've got a few links. You see when you see the hand here, it's always a link. You go right into the course material here. You go to the syllabus here. You go to introduction Zoom session. That's more for people who come in like tomorrow or so. They're like, okay, now I want to get started. And then I put the Zoom we're doing now behind there. And then we have study tools. Anatomy is a lot of memorization. Although I'm not really making you memorize. I mean, I'm making you memorize. I'd rather have you do process. I will talk about that in a little bit. But flashcards are really a great way to study that kind of material. And I got them through chiropractic school on flashcards system that I wanted to teach you, or I've been teaching students too. So we have a little bit of thing about that. Also, how to study, like sitting there, listening to something or taking notes, those things I want to talk a little bit about in there too. So you guys are prepared to. And because it's an introduction class, a lot of students are sort of fresh out of high school as well. And so it's good to talk about study stuff early on. And then this thing here down here is I have a study group Zoom link where you or together can do study groups or meet up virtually somewhere. And it's always open. It's 24/7. So you just click here. If you say like, "Hey, let's let's do a meeting or so. You have, I don't know, with another person. Can we do a study group? We just all can go through this link and link up to it and be there. And then I can join too if you guys want to have a supports thing, or, I'm here for you guys over the next 5 weeks to really support you to get through this fairly dense material. But it's very interesting stuff as far as, of course, I'm concerned. I love this stuff. It's about how your body works and what it's made up of. And so I'm here for you guys as a coach to help you through it. So reach out if you have questions, text me. I'm a text away. That's always, email is a little harder for me. If you want to have a fairly immediate response, text me. We can do a Zoom meeting, do some tutoring sessions, stuff like that. Make sure you take advantage of that. All right, then from there, we can go into modules, which is how the Canvas organizes its stuff. It's called modules. You can also go through here into it, and then you get to this, our class. And it's a short class. It's 5 weeks, more or less. The first module talks about learning stuff. Again, I already talked briefly about it. That's in here. We do have an activity around it that I want, because I do want you to think about studying a little bit and how we study and how neuroplasticity works. I have a flashcard system that's really efficient, where you focus on stuff that you don't know, and you don't focus on stuff that you already know. So you weed out a lot of the stuff. So it's cool. I had a lot of learning disability on particularly test anxiety, and growing up, and then I ended up in chiropractic school, and I was a little worried about that. So I was really trying to focus really hard on my study skills, because I would overstudy a lot of the times. So that was a really good system. So I want you to talk, I want to talk about that shoebox system a little bit and have you do some thinking around that. All right, so that's just in the beginning to say hello. And then from there, we go into the orientation module. Actually, that's the saying hello module. A little bit about me, how we talk to each other, how I contact you, or how you best contact me, and then how I communicate with you. The best way to talk to me is through text. That's the absolute best way. Email, I often take me a couple of days to get to it. If I think we go about 60 students, so I might get overwhelmed with text. And so if I don't respond within the 6 hours, 12 hours, shoot me another text. If it's in the middle of the night, don't worry about it. I put my phone away if I don't want to hear anything. And so you can have that free communication open with me through the whole semester. So don't be shy using it. I talk to you guys through text. You got some this morning. I tried to communicate that way and have sort of the dialogue a little. It seems to be fairly conducive for most of us, better than email these days for most of us students. And I also, when I grade, I give you comments in the grading sometimes, but most of it, my grading, most of it is done with completing work or not completing work. If you do, we'll go through some of those, but like the anatomy terms, I have you do label and coloring exercises. So I have lists of terms, and I have pictures of anatomy, like the skull or so, and I want you to label the terms that I tell you to label, and then I want you to color them and spend a little time on that. And then if you're not, let's say you're not complete on that, you turn it in, you're not complete, you can come back and complete it, upload it again, and then you get the full point value. So those exercises, a lot of the exercises I grade, those ones I grade like 0 points or full points. And so that way it's about completing the work. It's about getting through the process. We also, and so in there, I give you feedback as well in the discussion forums. We have a few discussion forums first week, this week, and then afterwards they kind of cease off, because I'm weeding out some of that time-consuming stuff that integrates the info. Unfortunately, that is a little bit of a drawback of an intensive course. But the positive is you immerse yourself in the material and really get through it. I have a lot of students that come back later as patients or in the summer, and they really enjoy having that sort of immersion way of program. I had one student, she went to Hawaii for 3 weeks and went on the beach and did the class that way. So that was kind of cool. That's another thing. I'm opening all the material to you now. Everything is open. So if you work ahead, go right ahead. Do it. no problem at all. Because I mean, if you can, but because if you let's say you have a little extra give now and you can do an extra chapter, then that gives you a little room later on, because you do want to do approximately a chapter a day, more or less. I think we've got about 30 chapters altogether. It's about 6 weeks. So, weekends off. So you do about a chapter a day, more or less. And so you work in that way. Don't get behind too far. That's the danger zone. But other than that, you kind of work on your own pace. And that's where the booklets also come in when we get to the material in a minute. So that's the ways that I talk to you. That's what I was communicating here. And then we have a little thing about, we celebrate diversity, a little bias discussion. We don't have a discussion with the group on that. The bigger, longer semester we do, especially if online, it's very important for me to have those clarity. People need to feel comfortable to share and be in the class. Then let's go through the syllabus. That's probably the other one that's fairly important. And in there, course description, and that's we already got that by now, I would think. What's important there is the outline, the course outline. If you look at these weeks here, what we do is we have, if you have the booklets, it's about a booklet a week to go through. So the first week is the introduction, the chemistry, cytology, tissues. That's the small stuff, the like microscopic type stuff. And then after that, we have a test on that material. I have the test range here. I can always open it early. I can always leave it a little bit later. So I'm not that beholden to it, although you don't want to fall too far behind. That's the danger with that in a short class. But once you move through that material, you can theoretically take that first test. I'll go through the test. I'll go through it, how to prepare for it. So I want to have you sort of reverse engineer, or at least that's the way I designed it. So you have a list of bullet points of all the information I want you to know for the test. And then you make sure that information you really understand. If some of the other stuff can be sometimes a little fast-paced or loosey-goosey or, that kind of stuff. And again, any questions, you butt into me and interrupt me. So then week 2, we're going to go into the bones and the muscles. That's pretty intense as well. Well, no, I shouldn't say it's pretty intense. I find it extremely interesting, and we can definitely meet online, and I can give you overviews of things a little bit and tie the material a little together. Same thing in the Zoom. When we do the Zooms on Monday, I set aside an hour a week to do that. We can always put in a little longer also, or have tutoring sessions as well. But also, we structure the Zooms, make sure you help me understand where you need to fill in the gaps, the questions that you have. Like some people like me to go over material again a little bit. It's a little hard to go through all, so much in an hour. So it's very good if you have questions or things you like a little more in depth, take a note of that and bring it to the Zoom on Monday. Or shoot me a text and then I can integrate it, and we can work it that way. So that way we sort of dynamically create this class in a way that you need to have me help you learn about your body stuff and what it's called and all that sort of stuff, how it works. Week 3, we go to the heart, cardiovascular, immune system, endocrine, and the skin. So that's pretty involved there. And then we get into neurology, which is one of my favorite parts. And then see here, I have second date range. I say exam 2. Exam 2 is about the bones and the muscles. Again, I go through the exams. But if you look through the syllabus here, where it's here, I should maybe put it in a second line itself, because I give you a date range here. That's a pretty wide date range. That way you can study your own pathway a little bit and have that leeway, okay? So it's not like on this day you have this test. Plus, some people work Sundays and or off. So I'm always closing everything on the end of the week on Sunday. In terms of doing the work, you see the cutoff points. That's the Sunday date. But if you are running a little bit late, again, it's not a big deal. I do give you a small little penalty, which I can always take out later. But I do that because I do want most of you to be on target and not late. But if something happens, again, some are very fast. So you communicate with me fast if you need support, so you're not falling behind. That often happens in a school, right? Especially online. You're like, oh, this is just so much and I don't know. And then there's a question that happens to me and then I put it to the side and I will deal with it later. don't do that. Reach out to me. Don't go into the anxiety space if that's how it works sometimes for you, like with me, if I don't touch it and then it goes away further and further, and all of a sudden it's finished. In a long semester, we can work with that a little bit. In a short semester, I need to hear from you. And I'll try to be on target too. If you guys fall behind in material that I see, I'll try to reach out and say like, hey, how can I support you? What's going on? Where can I help you? Anyway, respiratory and digestive, urinary, and repro is the last week in there. Oh, we also do nutrition, embryo. We do a little bit of embryology as well, because I think that's very important to know, especially for the guy people, to understand what's going on when we have a baby made. And then the last week is sort of set. That's the finals week, they call that. That's set to integrate, to make sure you understand everything as much as possible. And then we have the last tests. My tests are not cumulative, so don't worry about having to. Well, I actually give, it's open book tests. So you don't have to worry about memorizing anyway. You worry about understanding. My class is heavily based on worrying about understanding, not just memorizing and then regurgitating. I'm a practicing chiro and body worker. I work with a lot of pain patients. I work with long-standing chronic pains. I worked with the Raider players, with some Giants players. And I'm interested in function, in application. I'm interested in you learning something that you can take with you and you can make understand and be real life based, and not just only some academic things. So anyway, and I'm nerdy about it. So that's the way it goes. So that's sort of the syllabus. Oh, the syllabus also, what we need to talk in there that's important, I think, is the grade stuff. Everybody wants to know about the grade. I already told you that most of my material is you do it complete or you don't have it complete. So it's not like, oh, you're gonna do questions and you get it wrong once, you have to be nervous about it. No, you just take it again and you learn from it. So it's a marinating the brain. For me, it's like, how do I get this into the noggin? How do I massage the brain cells? And that's sort of what we do. So we have, every chapter has questions to it. I'll show you those in a minute. Then we have a few discussion boards. Then we have these labeling, coloring exercises I briefly mentioned. And we have other lab assignments. We don't really have other lab assignments. And then we have the test. So if you look at a lot of the work is 70% is do it stuff. And 30% is this like the testy type exam stuff. So you can get really far or pretty much get through the course by working it and being sort of busy and doing the work and not just relying on, don't just rely on, oh, I know it, I can just do the test, because everything else costs you then the grade. So if I go into a week, I think that's what we can do now. Again, if you have questions, just interrupt me. If I go into a week, we start with an introduction. We have a little bit, the weekly preview goes in here. The video we do right now goes in there for other people to watch. And then it talks about what we're doing today, this week. It has all that you learn or what you can do afterwards. And then it has a list of assignments. And these are multiple weeks in a regular semester put together. So I do it by chapter when I do that. Most of us don't really end up going back in there and reviewing that. It's just sort of that it's all nice and open. It's like a table of content kind of thing for the week. And then we go into the learn section. In the learn section, we got all these videos, which are the same barcoded in the booklet. What I like to do is I like to watch the videos, either the voiceovers. These I have to at some point redo. They're old, but they've been pretty okay, it seems. And then people seem to like them, at least. You know, it's hard to like your own voice, so I think they're crap. That's just the way it goes. And then after whatever, how many years I've been making videos, I just got over myself. My accent is wherever it is. And then I also have videos that I put in a class. I basically, before COVID, I started videotaping everything, thinking I'm going to improve my teaching through that. But of course, then COVID came and I was able to use all of those. So you don't have to watch all of those, both of those sets. You just go, play with it, figure out which one you like best, and then watch it. And then you look through the booklets and have the booklet next to it. Yeah, that's the way I ideally have it designed. And you watch the videos and go through the booklets, and that sort of gives you that informational, putting the information together, having something tangible, table to take notes on that as well, and visually have the pictures in there. I also put some of the bullet point stuff in here, and I have, these are the main chapters, the way they organize. So that's also pretty, has some kind of condensing the information and extracting all that text, so we don't have to read all the text. I just have it as bullet points of the main things that you need to really know. These are great to make flashcards, as if you're a flashcard person, for example. There's also some visuals in here, but those are unfortunately not as good as the ones in the booklet. That's where we have problems how to integrate it with the online world and all of that stuff. And then once you finish watching the videos, then every chapter, what I did is, well, this is how it got developed. I got really tired because the students would come to class and I would lecture, and it seemed like they didn't know what I was talking about. And it was like the good old read the chapter before you come to class was like, we never did that as well. So that went out the window. And so I decided I write behind every chapter, I write paragraphs that explain the information in a written format, me explaining it in writing. And so it's not really that complicated. It's like, quite rudimentary. Well, no, it's not quite rudimentary. It is actually complicated in terms of the material, but I'm not trying to not use the words that are like, so like, that's where we fall asleep. But I fall asleep when I read a textbook. So like you read that, and then there's the question laid behind it. So every chapter has these paragraphs and these questions. And that's what I also gave you in the material in the smaller booklets, the ones that are wherever they are in my hand here. So these ones, oh, you can't see these ones. Those are the ones that I have, because then you can take the booklets and the smaller ones and be doing wherever you want to do it. You don't have to be beholden to a computer screen. Because, one of my patients, she's a psychologist, and she orders pretty much all of her patients will be outdoors 2 hours a day, because it's shown to be very, very healthy to do that. And so if you can go into a park, take a couple of those things with you, go to a park and do some studying, and you can have it on the phone even, to watch the videos, obviously, and or do the quizzes or the questions. They're called quizzes. That's the format, but they're really questions, because you can take these over and over again. So that's what I think, how you can work the material. And then I have a video of me going through the questions. So if you have a day you feel I don't really understand that, well, you just watch the video and do it parallel. I don't care. It's fine with me, because you learn the information that way as well. And then what's most important to me is, let me just go right into the reverse engineering portion that I was talking to you about. When you go to the test, which has its own tab here, its own module, there's a test review. And in that test review, you got everything that I want you to know spelled out. What it is that I want you to know for the test is all written here. And so you can print that out. I made it a PDF, so you can print it out or screenshot it or however you work, and make sure as you work through the material, these are the things you really understand. Because if you understand those, you can take the test. You're good with the test. And you can use this material on the test. It's open book. So that's how I sort of work it that way. So you watch the videos, you go through the questions, and that brings the material into your system and works it a few times. I have it in the video, we work it with the pictures, we work it with the written paragraphs, we work it, and then you have these bullet points for the test review. And by that point, you have that understanding. And then if you don't understand it, you make sure you reach out. You make sure you involve me in the discussion. We can involve other students in the discussion too. For example, in the first week, I do have a few discussion forums that I go through some of the questions that I find most important, like homeostasis, for example. How's the body function? Negative feedback loop. These are some of the concepts that are, and I have some discussion where I want you to write out or make a video. A lot of people make a video. That's totally fine. And you can make a video, a selfie video on your phone, and then in the app, upload that video, and it's your post. You don't have to type. So don't, because I don't like to type myself. But I do those a few in the beginning of the week, or this first week in the beginning of the course, that way that you process the information in multiple different formats. Anyway, I forgot what else I was going to say. I do have a discussion on the study tools, so you go through that. I just want to make sure you go through that. And then I do have a question, I do have an orientation questions that I want you to just this week. It's no big stuff. It's just asking you, it just makes sure you read through the syllabus, make sure you understand what we're dealing about, what are the expectations you have from me? What are you going to do to be successful in this course? So just that you prepare yourself a little bit for the next few weeks when we spend time together. Or you probably get really tired of me listening to me on video all the time. Or not, I'll try to make some jokes about it. And then these are, besides the questions that we have every lecture, we then have the emoji here shows that's the label and coloring exercise. So let me actually go to the bones, because the first week doesn't really have them too much. See here, then every week has one of those things. And so when you look at the skull, for example, in here, you then have a video that goes through all the terms that I list here. And what I want you to do is I want you to label all those terms and color the area that it pertains to. And you can do that in multiple different ways. In the handouts that you got, in the material, you have everything printed out, wherever it went, on my end. You have everything printed out in these things. Or you can go right here electronically. If you work with an iPad and a pencil, that works great. You can do it right electronically and submit it that way. You have everything here, and you just do it on that directly. You have a link to the video too. So if you're in a park and you bring a paper, you just scan that video and it goes right to it, explains everything. So that's, I think, the way that I do those. And the coloring is part, you spend a little time on the material, don't just run through it. A lot of this stuff is actually slowing down your thinking to put it in the brain. Don't speed it up. That's the fallacy. It's a lot of material, but I try to pre-chew it, like, pre-digest it for you. So you, hopefully, a lot of it you can kick back and watch stuff and learn that way. And it's hopefully somewhat enjoyable too. Well, I hope it's very enjoyable, of course. That was the label and coloring exercises. And then when we go to test 2, let me go to that real quick. I know that's a little further down, but that test is about the bones and the muscles. And so we basically point to stuff and you say what it is. And so in there, what I did is I did an anatomy list where all the lists that I gave you in the labs are combined. And so if you can print that out, although you don't have to, because in the printouts in the handbook, we have those printed out. You have a list that on the test, on exam 2, anything that's there is on this list. And the test is essentially going to be me pointing to a structure and you telling me, you looking on the list, what is it? And you writing down in typing it in what it is. So that's from that perspective, again, and it's open book. It's quite straightforward. And if I go into, let me find it again. Oh, too many things open. Into the review, besides that list, I also created review videos. So that's another source where you can basically just watch some videos and you go through all these terms again chronologically. And again, it's a lot of different formats, but it's the same material. So you figure out how much on what format you want to absorb it in. But I have students, I remember when I made them first, see, I actually had some more hair there. And I was skinny, Jesus. I had people, remember this lady, she would fold laundry and watch the videos, and that was her prep for the test. And she just kept watching that a few times over. So that's good too. And again, it's open book. And I give you a lot of times. I give you, I think, even more than 120 minutes. I think I end up giving you 3 hours. And then I also created although I'm not using that too often, because that's it takes a lot of ink to print out, but I have every model that I use on the test. I show you an example for how I do that test. I have it here so you can have that and quiz yourself, so to speak. So that's how I did that. So that's from that perspective. And then if I actually show you briefly how that test looks, just to get you, I know it's further. Oh, look, it's locked. Shoot, hold on. I got to leave the student view. Yeah, the tests are locked. Everything else is open from the start. But I just want to take in case, I don't want to assume you have anxiety about this, but I was so laden when I was growing up that I want to make sure I show you. So what I do here is I ask you from that list, show me what this landmark is called, what this point is called. I say landmark when it's something smaller than a bone. I also have, what's this whole bone called? I could ask that too. And then I made a little video about it so you could see me saying, what's this called? And then I have a link in case the program don't work right in your little computer or the phone, or sometimes the Safari doesn't work right and Google. So that's the other thing. If you have technical difficulties with anything, you always reach out to me and we'll figure it out. And then you look up what that is and you type it right in here. You look it up on the list and then you go type it right in here. So that's how that test is built. So that's hopefully I give you 180 minutes. Actually, I give you 3 hours. So that's good to know. So I have to change that. All right, let's go back to the student. And then the third test is a combination of the two. So by that time, you understand how all that works. The other thing I want to finish up with, then we should finish up, I think, is at the end of the week, we have, that's the lab. Here, at the end of the week, we have a wrap up. I tell you, we did great. We have done all of this and all of that. So that's perfect. Some people, it's sort of like to finish up on that. But then the other thing that I think is cool, if you go into the further resources, we have, if you want to know more, we have this lady here, and she's passed away now, but she was like 100, Marion Diamond, and she used to own Einstein's brain. So she was really sharp, UC Berkeley, and she would write everything on the board and teach like people who later become professors of anatomy and things like that. So if you're nerdy like me and you like this stuff, that is like, I think, fantastic to check her out. I mean, obviously you don't, have to, but that's for more if you want to know more. And if you want to know more later, just download the channel or something, or subscribe to it. And then the other thing at the end that we do each week is we have a little reflection. So we have a little Padlet, reflection Padlet. That's how it looks. So I want you to take a little time to reflect on what you learn and also what's still unclear to you, and ask the class a question about that, or write something that, helped you, or you had an aha moment, or post a picture that you found really cool. And then share that with the classmates, your classmates. And if you have a question, your classmates will answer. And I have that a lot. And we have some dialogue starting a little bit back and forth. And I always read them as well. And I want them also to be a place where you can critique and say like how it is it for you? What exercise did you have a hard time with? What did you like? And so I'm not judging you on that, because I'm using all of that to then help me make things better and better. Because if I have a tendency, like everybody has a problem with that, I'm like, maybe I'm not doing this right or so. And so be open with that. So you click here and you then start writing something. And the other thing, make sure you can sign in with the school ID and then at Peralta, blah, 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 because then I can see your name and I can give you credit for that, because this is another process where I give you credit. Oh, this is one of the other lab activities, I think. Where that goes. And if you can't figure out how to sign in, just put your name into the post so I know who is who on that. Okay, and so I think that's it, what I have. Oh, no, the other thing that I wanted to show you, I do have, stop sharing. In the health kit in the thing that you bought, you also have this health kit. And the thing why I think that's kind of cool is we don't do those here. We do those in the longer semester. But a few are useful for it, because I do this with my patients, some of them, and when I work with them. So I have one, it's a lifestyle assessment. That is some that people like to go in and read if you have that. I also do a posture analysis. The lifestyle assessment talks about well-being and morbidity and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of interesting. And then I also have one that's on a home office. That's an ergonomic. So a lot of us sit, and how do we sit? And we get a lot of aches and pains. And in there, I give you some tips how to make a workstation better, like rest your elbows or stuff like that. And so look through that as well if you have the time or the interest. And again, I don't cover those in the summer semester because we're so fast, but in the regular, I have activities around it. And then the other one that I created is for my chiropractic patients, for sports injury stuff. If you are a sporty person or something you like, is a whole 12 exercises or things to evaluate what are sort of the weak links in your chain of movement apparatus. And then that way you don't get as easily injured if you know at what kind of things you should work on a little bit, if you're interested in that kind of stuff. They use this for the Swiss Olympic team. I'm Swiss. You probably detected an accent and maybe the Alps in the back or something. And I also do a neuroplasticity exercise, which is kind of cool to work about gratitude. So look through that too if you're interested. Anyway, that's all I had to say about that part. Any questions on your end? Is it all clear as muddy? Or was it pretty clear? Yeah? All right. Well, then in that case, we don't have to keep hanging around. Go back out and celebrate Juneteenth, please. Very important, I think. We got to keep working on that equality. And that's partly what I try to do with this class. And I appreciate you came, even though it was Juneteenth. And make sure you reach out and text me anytime you have a question. I'm here for you. All right. Make sure you take advantage of that. With that, welcome to our summer semester and learning anatomy. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.